up, vintage moto fans? Bill Wheeler here, Wheelhouse Garage, and welcome to episode 8 of A Bike and a Beer, the show where I feature a vintage motorcycle while drinking an appropriately paired beer. Today, we're going to be exploring this titan of a motorcycle from Harley Davidson, a 1959 FLH Duoglide Panhead, baby. And it's a really cool bike. This year and model has a really cool story, so I'm excited to share that with you. The beer I've chosen to go from this bike is also very cool. It's a throwback. We're drinking a Schlitz today. That's right, Schlitz. And if you're wondering why I chose Schlitz, besides the fact that it's made in Milwaukee, stay tuned. I'm going to tell a story and it'll all make sense. But first, let's crack it open and see what it's all about. Oh, I like it. My buddy said it would suck, but I like it. I wonder if it means I suck. Man, that's good. So, as promised, there's a great story to go with this bike. But first, I'd just like to give a huge shout out to my dad, Mucho Bill. Thank you so much for letting me borrow this bike and get it running for you. And to my good buddy Greg for jumping through a bunch of hoops to get me this awesome beer. Thank you guys, I really appreciate it. Okay, so here's the story. In 1959, as a promotional strategy, Harley Davidson gifted 2 of these bikes to prominent rock stars, as if they couldn't afford the bikes themselves. The first bike that they gave away went to Jerry Lee Lewis, the Killer, which I'm sure he was thrilled about. The second bike went to Elvis, and that pissed him off. He couldn't figure out why Harley Davidson thought of Jerry Lee first. And it actually became kind of a lifelong beef. I'm sure it was a friendly beef, but it kind of irked Elvis. So anyway, that's the story. And if you're wondering where those bikes ended up, well, Jerry Lee Lewis sold his bike in 2015. It went for a whopping $385,000. Nobody really knows where the Elvis bike went. He probably threw it away because he was mad. If anyone knows where it is, and they sold it, what do you think it would sell for? You think it'd go for more than the Jerry Lee Lewis bike? I think so. But leave a comment. Let me know what you think the number would be. Okay, so back to the beer. Jerry Lee Lewis has a song called What Made Milwaukee Famous, which happens to be the slogan for Schlitz beer. And so that's why I chose this beer for this episode. And as the song goes, what's made Milwaukee famous? It's made a fool out of me. Alright, let's dive into this awesome bike. 1959, second year of the Duoglide. First year was 1958. The reason it's called the Duoglide is because it has both front and rear suspension, which was new in 58. They'd had the front for about 10 years, called the Hydroglide suspension, and that's featured on this bike as well. But the rear, before 58, it had a hardtail frame. So these beautiful chrome shocks are a really, really nice addition. Everyone was stoked on that. In addition to that, you also get a seat with a little bit of spring in it too. So quite a comfy ride. This bike was really built for touring. This model specifically is an FLH, the H standing for highway. And that means that this bike got a higher compression motor as well compared to the FL. This is a 1200cc V-twin aluminum barrel putting out a whopping 55 horsepower. Check out this awesome mousetrap clutch that has a big old spring in it to help you move those big clutch plates around. This beautifully styled horn, I mean, crazy. It runs in between the cylinders and out front. This was the first year that Harley Davidson introduced a hydraulic rear brake. And I have to say, after riding it, that it actually works really well. And you definitely want it, because when you grab that front brake and nothing happens, it can be a little unnerving. There's a couple of items on this bike that are black that would have typically been chrome. The rims, the crash bars, and the handlebars, as well as this cover here for the speedometer and ignition switch. It's very, very comfortable, and the 1200cc motor makes you feel like it has long legs. Like you could really put some distance and not get too worn out on this bike. Look at these amazing flexible hoses that go into that beautiful black pipe. Really extravagant petcock here. Pull this up. And then it's got hard lines to the carburetor. This beautifully styled toolkit here houses the updated 12-volt charging system. Linkert carburetor, which I had apart a million times to set the float bowl height correctly at 1/4 inch and just make sure it was clean and ready to go. This bike also came with a nice bunch of electrical gremlins, so that was fun to chase down all those shorts and all that. But you know, in the end, when you get to ride it, it's all good. This bike gets major points for styling. I mean, I love the big fenders with the 50s style lettering and this beautiful chrome tubing around everything. This is a great example of real Americana. Alright folks, with all that said, that's going to wrap up this episode. Overall, I have to say, I was quite impressed with this giant piece of iron. It really maneuvered well. It was fun to ride, put a smile on your face, and I feel like you could do a lot of long distance rides on this bike as well. So that's going to wrap it up, and we'll see you next week with a whole new bike and a whole new beer. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to subscribe if you haven't already, and if you have, thank you so much. It makes a huge difference. Cheers, everybody.